I'm Emma Roodhouse. I'm a curator at Colchester and Ipswich Museums and a researcher into Constable's early years here in Suffolk.
My name's John Day. I run the East Anglian Traditional Arts Centre, and I was asked along for a really pleasant day looking at Constable country.
This painting of the Ascension by Constable is about 1821-22, and it was originally painted for a church in Manningtree, but that church got demolished, and it then went up onto a different church, but they opted to, they needed their heating overhauling, so they put it up for a possible sale. And fortunately, the Constable Trust formed to fundraise and buy it to save it for this location, and they had some conservation work on, so we're quite fortunate that the Constable Trust saved the painting, so we can still enjoy it today here in Dedham.
And portraits of any description, large ones, it's very difficult to get them on eye level because they were designed to be hung fairly high, and the foreshortening of the body and arms and hands is geared up towards that. So it is nice to see it in actual situation in Dedham Church.
Not many people would know that Constable did church commissions, would they?
No, it's an unusual sort of aspect to his career, but it's really interesting because there were sort of 3 church paintings that he undertook as commissions. One at Brantham, which is Christ blessing the children. Another one at Nayland, Christ blessing the elements, and the Ascension here in Dedham. And I think it's they were kind of essential to being helping with his profession, so they were paid for commissions, often engineered via the sort of family members that lived nearby. So in Nayland, his aunt lived nearby and helped him get that commission. They are the Ascension artwork is at the time he's painting that, he's living in Hampstead in London, and he's very interested in painting the skies and the weather and what's happening. So I think that comes across in the Ascension painting, because you've got this fantastic representation of clouds and Christ rising into the heavens. But I think you could do a study on Constable in the Anglican Church. Actually, there hasn't been as much done.
Yes, he was very religious, but it's not recorded that he was a churchgoer on a regular basis. He may well have done, but with a big family like that, it would have taken some organising, and I would have thought we'd have known about it in the correspondence if he had to get all his children ready to go to church on a Sunday morning.
Certainly his parents, Golding and Anne, were, very religious, and that was quite an important part of their life. Golding, his father, served as a church warden at East Bergholt Church, so they were regular churchgoers.
So would a commission for the church been a vital part of his keeping him afloat? Yes,
that was the aim, I think, although I don't think they were in the end that lucrative, and unfortunately the Ascension commission, he ended up sort of out of pocket because the person that commissioned it, a family friend, decided he wanted to do it as a favour towards the church to kind of help bribe licences, wasn't it? He was a brewer, and being able to grant sort of brewing licences was part of the sort of church remit at the time. And then so he thought, right, I'll organise this commission, give it to the church, and it'll be a way to sort of ease my sort of brewing business. But that things fell apart, and in the end they just kind of left it for Constable to have to pay for the rest of the painting. So I don't think that was a very profitable outcome.
Up to the early 1800s, Constable was a little bit pressurised to do more portrait work for local people and elsewhere, because that was the earning part of being an artist. landscapes, you had to be quite famous to make a good living out of being a landscape painter, and he was still learning the ropes in those days. But he did, in fact, settle to be a landscape painter rather than a portrait artist, and that's to all our benefits.
Definitely.
Didn't he survive for a long time on allowance as well?
Yes, yes. So the family money, I think, helped, you know, but also, yeah, these sort of local commissions. Again, in the Ipswich collection, there is a group portrait of the Cooper sisters of Stratford St Mary, and you can see the church through the window. And these were kind of local, you know, ways to get a bit of money in. Shaw also proved to his parents, look, I could be a professional artist. I can make money at this sort of thing. But I don't think they were really where his heart was, you know, and you can sort of tell the difference between the people he really has a connection with and enjoys painting, and those that he's just doing it for money.
Did you do some work at Salisbury as well, didn't you?
Yes, that's slightly different. Yeah, yeah. In the Bishop of Salisbury, and the Bishop's nephew became his, you know, good friend. So he sort of going to Salisbury to paint the cathedral, but also because, you know, he had kind of friendships there as well. So
yes.
they weren't really kind of like in the same vein as church commissions. I wouldn't put them.
Salisbury he went 1813, but then went back in 21 and spent a lot of time there. Salisbury became quite a major source of friendship and also a good commission. There were several large oils of Salisbury which were paid for by the bishop.
And the artist tools, or the trade, you know, tools of his trade at that time, how expensive was it for oils and all the materials he needed? Was that quite expensive outgoing?
It would have been for the oil paints. Some of the colours were terribly difficult and expensive to obtain. Some of the blues had to be ground and mixed. But in general, I think it wasn't probably till the 1820s, when he had the money anyway, that he was using a lot of paint. So that was a good thing.
So that probably reflected in his style in a way as well, maybe.
Possibly.
A bit more sparing and
Possibly.
less texture.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Let's be up for debate.
Yeah.